songs, let me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc, where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
The biggest one would be communication, and then secondly it would be time management. Time management, just prioritizing, because when you have 7 different projects, some things are going to be a little bit more urgent than others, and trying to just put out the fires.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. This is the leadership series, and we have a special guest with us today, Matt Christman, all the way from Tucson. Am I saying that right? Tucson, that's how you say it,
Tucson,
right?
Arizona.
Tucson, Arizona. One of the great cities, one of the up-and-coming cities, I think, in America. This city's booming, so I can't wait to hear about all the stuff that's going on in the Parks and Rec department. Matt has a background in project management, aquatics, a lot of superintendent type stuff, and so I'm really excited to have this type of conversation, because this content is probably one of the least spoken about content, even though it's like half of all the effort that goes into Parks and Rec, man hours and money, is on facilities maintenance and construction and that kind of stuff. But it's probably the most thankless of all the thankless jobs in Parks and Rec. So, but before we get started, everybody knows we just got back from California. We've been over there, covered that state conference they had a couple weeks ago, and we made a promo that I haven't even seen yet. And so we all get to see it for the first time, and it just kind of summarizes our annual event over there, and it was an amazing event. If you haven't been out to California to see their Parks and Rec event, it's almost like a mini NRPA. So we'll play that, and then we also have a little promo for all the different shows that we create. So Joey, why don't you go ahead and play those two, and we'll come right back and start our conversation with Matt.
It started with a shared purpose, a vision to bring people together, to inspire, to learn, and to lead. And at CPRS Conference 2026, that vision came to life. From every conversation to every connection made, this wasn't just an event, it was a community in motion. Ideas were challenged, perspectives were expanded, and leaders stepped forward, ready to shape the future of parks and recreation. At DPRS Media Network, we had the privilege of capturing it all. The passion, the innovation, the stories that deserve to be seen and heard. Because these moments don't just stay here, they ripple outward, into communities, into programs, into lives. To the organizers, the speakers, the partners, and every single attendee, thank you. For showing up, for sharing your voice, and for being part of something bigger than all of us. This is more than a conference. This is a movement. And DPRS Media Network will continue to tell your story every step of the way. We'll see you at the next one. Welcome to DPRS Media Network, the voice of Parks and Recreation professionals, where leadership grows, facilities thrive, and communities connect. Leadership Series, Insights from the Leaders Shaping Our Industry. Facility Maintenance, the backbone of safe and sustainable spaces. Young Professionals Network, empowering the next generation of Parks and Rec leaders. The Rec Room, real conversations, real stories, real impact. Youth Sports Mastery, elevating the game for athletes and communities. Smart Parks Forward, innovation driving the future of recreation. On the front line, honoring those who serve our communities every day. Athletes Commute, the journey behind the performance. The Aquatics Life, everything aquatics, safety, staffing, sustainability. Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, a show exploring the connection between nature and mental well-being. And we don't just tell the stories, we show up where it happens. From local gatherings to national parks and recreation conferences, DPRS Media Network is on the ground, capturing conversations, highlighting innovation, and amplifying the voices shaping our industry's future. DPRS Media Network, connecting parks, empowering people, inspiring communities.
All right. Wow. Great job, Chris, on building that. He's one of our very talented video editors that puts together those promos for all the stuff that we do and attend. And so great job on that. All right. So Matt, let's kind of dig into, let's just kind of start with the early part of your journey. How did you get into this career path of Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, so growing up, I played sports throughout, and I always thought that going to college, I played baseball in college. So when I thought sports psychology was my path. And then I found out that you need more than a master's degree to be a sports psychologist. So I veered off into sport management and got my master's degree in sport management at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. And then that started me into the Parks and Rec field. We were living at the time in St. Louis. I started part-time as a camp counselor for their summer camps. And then from there, it went into full-time where they had extended rec. So it was basically their sports division that they had. And then a full-time position came available in Decatur, Illinois, and we were looking to move back there because that's where my wife was from. So they had a very strong parks district there. So that introduced me into my first full-time position, being over athletics and sports with the Decatur Park District. Spent 3 years there and then tried to diversify my resume a little bit. An opportunity came available in Marana, Arizona, to be an outdoor programmer where I led guided hikes in the Tortolita Mountains because when you're from the Midwest, you don't see mountains.
Yep.
You got hills. So it was just to try and get a way to every aspect of the parks side of stuff, because trying to lead guided hikes is a lot different than leading a youth sports department. So then from there, I became an opportunity came available for the athletics and aquatics supervisor position in Marana. Got that position, was in that position for 3 to 4 years, and then trying to further my career to be a superintendent. We moved to South Carolina, where I worked for Richland County Recreation Commission as their athletic or recreation superintendent. And I was over the golf course that we had there, all the athletics, aquatics, and then all their health and fitness programs as well, and then therapeutic rec. So that was my first introduction into therapeutic rec. So that's what drew me to that position, because I didn't have that experience being over therapeutic rec. So learning that aspect and getting a new appreciation for what we can do on that aspect of the parks industry as well, and the recreation industry. So then from there, I was there for 2 years, then became the deputy director in Odessa, Texas. So each way along my career path, it's been moving up in the industry. There, I was over 70 people. As the deputy director, a lot more budgeting, more master planning, that kind of stuff. At the time, that was coming out of COVID. They only did small rec, like community events. And I was focused on trying to get more sports programming out there. And then I was there for about 1 year and 6 months, and then came back out to Tucson. We were trying to get back to Arizona because Arizona's our home. So it was one of those things that we just wanted to be back here. And then with that, I got the position with the city of Tucson for the project manager position. And we're building, the citizens passed a $218 million bond back in 2018. So we're implementing that bond. We have 7 project managers. I have about 5 to 7 positions or projects that I'm over. My biggest project right now, we're totally revitalizing a park that was built in the 40s and the first big renovation that they've had, and it's $7.6 million project.
Wow.
Took out the aquatics. The pool was closed for 20 years, just sitting there. We took that out, putting in a splash pad, making a plaza area, just trying to make a gathering area. And then we shifted over a field, baseball, softball field, and then we added more multi-purpose fields. And then for that baseball, softball field, we're going to put in a temporary fence. And then there's 2 other fields there as well. And then we were putting a walking path throughout the whole park as well. So it's just good to see. And in this side, trying to do everything for the community and making impacts in the community is why I love Parks and Rec, because you can make a true impact. And the nice thing that the city of Tucson does is when we were going out for the new playground that's going in, survey interaction, going to neighborhood associations, that engagement to hear residents say, well, we've lived in this neighborhood for 40 years and this is the first time that we're getting something that's going to be nice and new. So it's nice to hear that kind of stuff, that the leadership in the department, along with mayor and council, are seeing that aspect for Parks and Rec and quality of life and that kind of aspect too.
Yeah. Now, if you, normally I ask this kind of towards the end of the show, but I'd like you to maybe give some advice to people that are new to the facilities maintenance side. What recommendations would you give? And maybe what are some of the skills that you have seen yourself having to develop so that you can kind of, climb that ladder of being a superintendent over all this stuff? So think about, when you were really young, what skills didn't you have that you had to kind of shore up along the way?
Yeah, the biggest one would be communication. And then secondly, it would be time management. Time management, just prioritizing, because when you have 7 different projects, some things are going to be a little bit more urgent than others, and trying to just put out the fires. So understanding where you can take and shift your time is big too. And then thirdly, it's just being on the job site for when you're constructing, just making sure that everything is following through, because you got your general contractor, then you got your general contractor has their superintendent, but then you're dealing with their project manager as well. And then they got all their subs. Right. So it's just a lot of shuffling and making sure that you're hitting their timeline on your NTP for your notice to proceed for the whole project, that you're hitting your timeline, because there are penalties if they don't hit their timelines as well. And then, like I said, with the communication aspect, when you're in those construction meetings, having those conversations with the project manager, superintendent, and sometimes the subs get brought in too, so they understand, hey, like, there's going to be penalties if you don't hit this timeline for the project. Because the project that I was talking about, Santa Rita Park, we broke ground last April, and we're going to open it in June. So it's been over a year and 2 months that the residents haven't had that park, because we fenced the whole park. It's 47 acres. So because we're touching every aspect of that park, so they're itching to get into the park as well. So it's just having that communication and having the understanding with everybody that, hey, the residents haven't had this park for a year and 2 months. So, hey, we got to make sure that we're hitting our timelines.
Yeah. So what do you do? I know you've must have had some contractors or some, like electricians or plumbers, and it's just not really working out. How do you handle those kind of tough situations where things just, they're not meeting their deadlines? What do you do? What do you do? Or what have you learned how to handle those situations?
Yeah, so they have their subs. So you're mainly dealing with the general contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with either the superintendent or the project manager. Most of the time you're dealing with the project manager. And then they have to be the bad guy, so to speak, talking to them, because we're the owner. We're the ones that are paying the bill. So they got to be the bad guy. And then if you have a good relationship, because most of the time the subs that your general contractor is using, they've been on other projects with you, so you might know them.
Right.
So if you know them, then you could basically go to them and be like, hey, this isn't working out. Can we have a meeting or a conversation with the project manager from the general contractor as well? Because with the city of Tucson, we have 12 jock contracts. So we can go to 12 different contractors for our projects. So they're eager because, like I said before, we have 7 project managers. Each of us have 5 to 7 projects. Well, those contractors don't want to upset the apple cart a little bit, because then it might put a bad taste in one of our project managers' mouths, where they're like, I don't know if I want to really work with them on another project that comes up if they are awarded that bid and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they're going to try and appease or help out as much as they can on that process, because if there's a bad mark on what they're doing, they may not get another job for a little bit.
Yeah, it might be their last project with y'all.
Yeah. So
are there any landmines or any catastrophes that you've had to endure, or, and what were the lessons in those? Maybe if you could say, hey, make sure you don't do it this way. Tried that, it failed. As if you're a new project manager and you're still kind of learning the ropes.
Yeah. So it's not a big landmine, but it was a landmine. We had one of our parks. It's Jesse Owens Park. We were putting in a asphalt pathway, and the design of the pathway was just to put it back on native turf. So we did some turf removal, grass removal. Well, when we did that, it was dormant. We heated it up by putting asphalt down and not putting AB down or anything like that, because that wasn't in the design. Well, then it's called nutsedge, a weed, broke through in like 2 days in the brand new asphalt path. So it was money that we had to rip it back up, pay more money, instead of treating it. We treated it, but it was so down into the ground that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So we put down, to remedy that mistake, we sprayed it again, put 4 inches of AB down, and then we put the new asphalt on top of that.
Yeah.
So that way it chokes it a little bit more. But that was a minor landmine, but it was another $60,000 cost that we didn't foresee happening.
Yeah. And it's actually more common, I mean, at least because I used to be a master electrician, and I had crews, and Parks and Rec was just one of the clients. This is like a lifetime ago, but I still remember that rarely did we have stuff go according to plan. It's like,
nothing really goes according to plan.
Right.
Yeah. Like I got another project that it's my first sewer connection that I've done. And I wouldn't have guessed how many permit fees there are just to connect to a sewer line.
Yeah.
And just for the manhole, they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be like 30 to 40,000 just to replace the manhole. And it's like,
wow, that's crazy.
So it just adds up pretty quick
Yeah.
when you're dealing with construction.
Yeah. Now, what are the different people that are involved in a project? Maybe you just go through the list of, obviously you've got all the permitting side, you've got the contractors, you've got the subcontractors, kind of who are the groups of people that you have to kind of manage through a given project?
Yeah, so then the first people that you have is you're developing your scope of work for the
Mhm.
project, and then you bid that out to a design firm. We do have, I believe it's 14 design consultants that went through our process. So we can go directly to those 14 for design services. So design services could be where they're just doing lighting design, or they're doing a big project like the $7.6 billion, where they're coming up with the design of a walking path, connectivity throughout the whole park for ADA accessibility, laying out more multi-purpose fields, playground, shade structure over the playground, ramadas, that kind of stuff too. So it just depends. So they're the first people to see it, to come up with the construction plans that you go to permitting for. And then we normally do the 60%, 90%, 100% plans. And then after you get those, after all those reviews are done, then you go to your permit application for your development package. And then if you have vertical structures, then you go to your commercial building package and get those permits. Our process is 14 days for each of those. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, depending on how many reviews they have to do. And then from there, you got your comment period back with your design consultant, and then they got their subs that they deal with. So it could take anywhere from 9 months to 11 months to a year just to get through that whole process. And then once you get your permits and application in, then you can start your bid process and send it out to the contractors, do that process. And then you're going to have a pre-bid meeting for that project. Just if the contractor has any questions right up front, I always do it on site. Some people like to just do it virtually, but I like to have the contractors out on site so they can see what and talk through the job a little bit on that aspect. Then once they get awarded, then you're dealing with procurement, you're dealing with finance to make your PO for them, all that kind of stuff too. And then as the project goes on, if certain things come up, there might be a change order throughout the process, something that you didn't see happening, or like when you're demoing and they didn't. Out here in Arizona, we have caliche, so it's like dirt that basically turns into cement. And if you're putting in like shade structure and you have to go down 12 feet, well, your contractor might say it's a hard dig if they hit caliche, because then they got to get a different drill bit and all that kind of stuff to get through. So there's that kind of stuff too that could come up, the unforeseeables. So you have a change order for that kind of stuff too. So it's just managing all the aspects of that. And then once you get that aspect done, then it's when the construction's complete or getting close to complete. Like if you have an irrigation system that's getting put in, we have our irrigation supervisors. So then there's internal communication with the different supervisors in those areas to help out, to help look at what they want for their standards and specs as well. So we're trying to make sure that we're communicating along the line with even the park maintenance supervisor, so they know what is going on in the park and what new amenities are coming and new improvements. And they look at the plans. We sit down with them, look at the plans, so they're not blindsided. And if they see something on the maintenance side that we might need to change on the design aspect, they have that input back at the design phase as well. But if we meet with them and they don't have any comments, and then when construction happens and then it gets put in and they're like, hey, this isn't going to work. And it's like, hey, you got your opportunity to say something, but it didn't happen. So it's just, you're trying to include everybody throughout the whole department, where people have said before, this is the first time that the capital and development division has included anybody from any of the park side or the rec side for operations aspects, because normally it was just capital and development came through and said, oh, we think this is the best practices and this is how you design a park, and they didn't really have any input. So now we're trying to make sure that everybody's got their own voice that's heard for it, because when you have all the coworkers, you want to make sure that their voices are heard. That's another big aspect when you're coming up with your projects and making sure that everybody's being communicated with as well, because you can't see everything. Like when you're looking at a plan set, it could be 60, 70 pages. You're not going to catch everything. So you got to try and have as many eyes on those plan sets as you can too. So that's the big aspect of it.
Now, do y'all do anything at the end as you kind of wrap up a job and you're finished? Do you kind of do anything to assess, how do we do? What lessons did we learn? What can we do better? Kind of wrap up the project?
Yeah, to wrap up the project, it's literally just doing the punch list, make sure that everything's filled out, done, and then you do your substantial completion. And then it's more internally. So for each project manager, it's like, hey, maybe communication could have been a little bit better on the next project. I need to do this or that. And then with our we call it our compliance department. So we have small business enterprises, and we have certain goals that there's a city ordinance for it. So we have to present to them any project that's over 100,000. They have to do an assessment to see what percentage of the project has to be a small business. So wrapping that up, you have to fill out at the end, you have to evaluate the general contractor for them. So if there's any issues, you have to document that. But if there's no issues, then you just fill out the paperwork and then you're good to go. So that's another aspect of wrapping up the project, because that's another entity that within the city of Tucson that you have to cover as well. So it's good that way, because as big as the city of Tucson is, it's nice to have that aspect where they're looking locally what small businesses could help out with these kind of projects that are in the community. Yeah.
Now, how did you learn all this? Was this mostly on the job training, or is there some type of, I know there's a project management certification that's a global certification that you can attain. Did you ever go through that, or?
I did not go through that. The University of Arizona actually has a semester course that they do. I think it's a semester, or it's 8 weeks, 12 weeks, that you can get your public, being a project manager certification for that. I did not. All of my experience was through the Parks and Rec. So each aspect, when I was with Marana, we just did a project where we redid a adult softball field. So from there, I was on that team. I wasn't the lead on it, but I was in the room for getting that experience of how to change a field out, because we had to change. All of our lighting was old lighting, and it was on wood poles still. So we changed that out, and I got to see the aspect of that. And then when I went over to Richland County as the superintendent, my executive director at the time, Lakita Watson, asked me, she's like, okay, hey, like, we got these projects. You've done a field renovation. I think you should help out with this and lead that. So then I got that aspect where it was a 4-diamond complex. It was a dirt road going in. It was dirt all the way around, and we wanted ADA accessibility throughout the 4 fields. So that was learning how to put in concrete walkway, pathway all the way from the parking lot all the way to the play area and then concession area. And then also redoing all of the fencing that was there, and helping with grading of the fields and that kind of stuff too. So my experience in the project management has been through my other positions, and allowing and asking to be incorporated into those meetings. The only thing that your supervisor can tell you is no, that we're not going to include you. But I would hope that they would, to get you that experience, because it doesn't cost your supervisor anything to include you, in as long as it's not affecting your day-to-day job. I don't know why a supervisor wouldn't include staff in those kind of meetings if they're interested in that area. If they're not interested in the area, then there's really no reason to be in that meeting. But if that's something that you want to try and get experience in and an understanding of how to do it, I would say to ask your supervisor to see if you could get into those construction meetings, and even on the design side too, because it's nice to be in those kind of conversations while the design's happening, because your designers, most of your design consultants are landscape architects. Mm-hmm. So they have a different aspect, because like I said before, my experience is heavily in sports and aquatics and the operations of all of the mechanics, basically, where a landscape architect is focusing on just the landscape and trying to make it look nice and pretty. But then there's the operation side to make it sure that it actually works correctly, and how you can do that as well. Yeah.
And maybe we can, well, we're kind of at the halfway point, so we'll go ahead and take a little break. But when we come back, I'd love to talk about how y'all include and why it's important to include the people that are going to be maintaining what you build, and why it's important to get their input. And then we're also going to talk about aquatics, not just swimming pools, but also the splash pads, which are pretty much swimming pools. They seem to function a lot like one. But what we're going to do is we have one of our earliest show sponsors is Outdoor Link. If you haven't heard about Outdoor Link and you're in Parks and Rec, you definitely need to check them out. They are helping cities to become smart cities that they can control pretty much the entire city's infrastructure from an iPad, from an iPhone, and make it to where you can basically turn off baseball field lights, parking lot lights, splash pads, lock bathroom door locks, all from a centralized location, so that you don't get a call from grandma that the coach left the lights on and it's Sunday at 2 a.m. and you're having to figure out how to go turn them off. So they do a great job with that. And I think they're one of the only companies that really is starting to help connect the entire infrastructure to one centralized location. And then after that, we're going to play On the Front Line promo, which is also a new promo. This is a show that we started for the military bases, have their own Parks and Rec department on every military base in the world, over 300 military bases. And so if you're in the military and you're playing baseball, you're basically on what they call MWR. And Jonathan Prue has been doing that with the Navy for almost 4 decades. And so he does a great show. That show's every Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So Jovi, why don't you go ahead and play those 2 promos, and then we'll come back and finish up our conversation with Matt.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity, and even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens, all from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Not every job happens behind a desk. Some happen where decisions are made in seconds, where pressure is real, and where people show up no matter what. This is the front line. It's where service meets reality, where responsibility isn't optional, and where impact is measured in people, not headlines. We follow the men and women who stand first to respond, first to protect, first to act when it matters most. They don't do it for recognition. They do it because someone has to. On this show, we go where the work happens, beyond the uniforms, beyond the titles, beyond the noise. We hear the stories, the challenges, the moments that test them, and the purpose that keeps them going. Welcome to On the Front Line, the Military Rec Show. Real people, real pressure, real service. This is where it begins. Stories from the front.
Yeah, I love seeing that promo for John. He does a great show. So if you're in the military and you want to maybe get involved in Parks and Rec and the military, there's a place where those two roads intersect, and that's with MWR. And we have a weekly show every Tuesday to go over that. Okay, so let's talk about aquatics. Kind of how do you see aquatics developing into what it used to be, running an old legacy swimming pool, into now we have these splash pads, which is somewhat of a new thing. I'm not even sure when splash pads came out. It's got to be under like the last 10 years, I would imagine, huh?
Yeah, it would. So with our bond that we passed in 2018, we have it's between 27 or 37 splash pads that we're implementing throughout all of our parks. The city of Tucson operates 130 parks. So a lot of the nice thing about a splash pad is you can fit it inside of a 4-acre park.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go the traditional route of trying to put in a swimming pool, you got your bathhouse, you got all of that other ancillary stuff. So the footprint's a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
At least with the splash pad, you got your pump room, you got your surge tank. That's basic. It should be right underneath your pump room.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got your splash pad, and then your shade structure. In Arizona, we always look at putting shade over our splash pads.
Right.
Since it gets so stinking hot out here.
Yeah.
But your footprint's a lot different. Like and the cost is a lot less too, because you're not having to shotcrete a whole big pool. You're not going down 10 to 12 feet if you want a diving well, all that kind of stuff too, where you just got your surface, and then it's literally figuring out how many spray elements you want and how big your footprint is, and then you put your fence around it, and then you're set to go. And most of the time where the splash pads go, you already have your facility, your bathrooms and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So people could change in the bathrooms as well. So it just, the footprint is a lot less than mm-hmm. trying to put in a traditional, and the cost aspect for personnel too, because when you have a splash pad, you don't have your lifeguards that have to be on duty mm-hmm. unless you want to put in a slide that gathers water at the very bottom.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend that. But some splash pad elements, they have that aspect of it. But other aspects where it just goes down into the drain, there's no water gathering. So you don't need a lifeguard on duty. So your expense is a lot less too on the personnel side for splash pads to operate them.
Now, how many gallons of water do you have to treat for your average splash pad?
It all depends on the size of the splash pad. Typically, I would say it's between 7,500 gallons to 12,000 gallons for your surge tank. Obviously, it's not pushing all that water at once. It's probably going to take about a quarter to half of it. But then you don't want your splash or your surge tank to get all the way taken when you start up the system, because then your water is going to be so imbalanced with the chemicals that it'll be hard to keep up with making sure that it stays within the elements or the range that your health department sets for that.
Yeah. Now, as far as that's concerned, it pretty much operates like a swimming pool. It's just you can't see it. The pool's like in a tank underground. It's just like pushing that water out.
Correct. And then you got your filters, and then what we do for secondary sanitation, we do UV light to help treat it as well, because you got your chlorine is the most common, and then you got your secondary. A lot of people are starting to do clear comfort as a secondary sanitation, but it's not certified as secondary sanitation.
What's that? Clear comfort? I never heard that before.
So it's a little device that you mount. It's like a UV light, but there's tubes that you have to change out. It's a lot. It's maintenance less maintenance on it, where you're having to constantly change out. Probably every 3 months, you might have to change out the UV light, depending on how much it's going through and how often it's running. But the Clear Comfort, it just mounts, and then there's a tube that goes into your main line or your feed line or your supply line, and then it triggers that, and then it'll tell you if you need to change out the cartridges that are in the Clear Comfort.
So which do you prefer? Do you prefer the swimming pool or the splash pad?
I prefer splash pad, just because in a splash pad you have your different zones. You may have an area where it's for 2 to 5 year olds, then you have an area for 6 to 9 year olds, and then 10 and up. So there's a municipality here in Arizona that they have a very big footprint, but they have different elements. So for the older kids, they got a dump bucket. For the middle kids, they got a slide that goes down, but it doesn't collect any water at the bottom. And then for the younger kids, you got your spray elements like geysers, tunnels, that kind of stuff. So it's nice that, because when you have a pool, you got your zero depth entry, most of the time is what's popular now. So you got your rec pool, and then some may have a play structure in that rec area, but it's a lot more to maintain on that aspect. And then you got to have your lifeguards stationed and whatnot. And then you might have another rec element is putting in lazy rivers and that kind of stuff too. So it just depends on what your budget is. And if you have enough personnel to operate a pool over a splash pad. In my opinion, the cost effective thing to do would be a splash pad, because you can put in a splash pad, depending on the size, for right around under $1 million, because there are new systems that make it a little bit more streamlined. For one of my projects, we're putting in aquatics with Landscape Structures is the parent company, and then their sister company, and they have a prefabrication surge tank that comes from their office or building in Minnesota, already built. It comes on a truck. You just crane it in place, and then they have a pump room that fits right on top of that. And then that's prefabrication as well. So we've been working with them on telling them exactly which equipment we would like into that pump room, and then that'll go right on top. We'll tie in all the plumbing and everything, and then it goes right to the splash pad with the plumbing, and then we're set to go, where we're not having to dig, put rebar in for making the structure for and Shot Creek and the search tank and all that kind of stuff, and then making sure that it's structurally sound to put a pump room on top of it as well. So they have that system where they say that this is our first system that we're putting in, but other people have put it in Texas and
who is that?
California too. So
who does that?
It's Aquatics. They're owned by Landscape Structures.
Okay. Yeah, Mike. So maybe if you can help connect me with. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's something different to do because, and it cuts down the lead time because on the construction side, we're trying to cut down as much time as possible because another project that I'm on, the Santa Rita Park project, we're doing a engineered where they're building the steel and everything like that for the surge tank. Well, it's going to take about 2 weeks to let that cure and all that. Well, that's 2 weeks that with this other system, you cut down on that. So we should be able to run water in the new system within a month to 5 weeks of getting it on site, where this other system might take 10 weeks to get it put into. So it's a quicker process.
Yeah. We may have to get them on the show to explain that. That seems like a really, I guess, like you said, cost efficient way to get a splash pad built.
Yeah.
Are they one of the few companies that do this that you found, or?
They're the only company that I know of about doing the prefab pump surge tank and then a prefab pump room
that go on top of it.
Yeah. But I'm sure there might be some other companies, but that's the only one that I've
been able to find. Yeah. And so what are the different numbers between running, so if you had to, just from a construction side, if you're building a full-on aquatic center with a swimming pool, what's the rough back of the napkin price tag on that just to get the thing built? And then versus the splash pad, and then what's the ongoing maintenance of each, if you could do a little comparison?
So everything's square footage. It just depends on how big of a tank. So we have a municipality in Arizona that just opened they did a rec center and an aquatic center tied together. When I've talked with other people throughout the industry, I have a friend that he builds sports complexes and he builds aquatics centers and that kind of stuff. He always says minimum, if you want it to be a competition aquatic center, you're looking at probably 20 million. Just on the competitive side for just doing competitive lanes, 50-meter pool, that kind of stuff.
Right.
It all depends on what you're looking to get out of your pool. Is it to have tournaments or swim meets? Is it to have competitions? Is it more on the rec side where you have your rec pool where there's beach entry, and then you could do like a therapy area as well where you have a ramp that comes down, people can do water aerobics, that kind of stuff. It literally all depends, but he's told me minimum 20 million for a competitive aquatic center. Whereas a splash pad, you can, like I said before, at $1 million or under $1 million, and then you don't have the personnel aspects either, where you're basically just having your maintenance guys service it, backwash it, check the chemicals, that kind of stuff. So the cost overall is less expensive for doing a splash pad, because you're not going to run through a lot more. You're going to run through more chemicals doing an aquatic center or a pool than just a splash pad.
And then you've got these, I guess they're like mini water parks now, that is kind of like the third option. And I almost think the sky's the limits on those. Have you had any experience with those, beginning water parks on up to like the larger ones?
Yeah, I personally haven't, but like I said, where this municipality, they put in 2 water slides, and then they have a play structure inside their rec area as well on their rec pool. It's literally just the maintenance aspect, because you got to make sure that and the city of Tucson's got water slides at some of our pools as well. And like one of my projects, the pillars for the support for the slide were chipping away and eroding, and you could see the rebar that was basically becoming super brittle. So we had to redo it and have scaffolding and supports and the whole bit, chipped away all of the bad concrete, cut out the old rebar, re-welded the rebar back, made a cage,
Wow.
redid it. So it was a lot more intense on that aspect. But that's the only way to do it for if you have those foundation for the supports for the slide. But then you got the ongoing maintenance too of waxing them, making sure that the maintenance of the slides are still good because, like I said before, out in Arizona, it gets hot, sun bleached, all of it. So you have to paint the outside and then you got to wax the inside to make sure that the plastic for the slide or the fiberglass of the slide doesn't deteriorate and break down, because a slide replacement could be anywhere from 300,000 to 700,000. It just depends on what your slide is.
Right. Now, I'd like you to kind of dig into your personal why. Why have you chosen to dedicate your life to the project's, construction, facilities, maintenance side of Parks and Rec? And then how does that kind of feed you as personally, as in something you want to keep going on?
Yeah, my why is, so I sort of touched on it before. I grew up playing sports.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I learned through playing sports, teammates, teamwork, all of it. Well, on the project side, you have your community engagement with the neighbors. And I sort of talked about that aspect where on my Santa Rita Park project, that park hasn't been touched in 40, 60 years. Mm-hmm. So hearing the citizens come up to you and say, oh, thank you, we're looking forward to these improvements. It's just nice to have a community and for me personally, making a difference in the community for giving them something that they didn't have before. Because in that park, there's a lot of homeless that are around that area. So the residents didn't feel safe because there was drug paraphernalia in the grass and that kind of stuff too. So we're cleaning all that up, making sure that trying to re-engage with putting in the walking path and having those elements so the kids of that neighborhood can use the park again and create those memories, because this park has a rich history of having women play baseball. They're not softball. This is before women started playing softball. They were playing baseball there. Mm-hmm. And then that aspect too. So my why is trying to engage the community, make a difference in the community. And one way to do that is by putting projects into and completing projects as well, because you could not complete anything and then your supervisors are mad at you and all that kind of stuff too. But getting through and completing the project to have those groundbreaking moments and seeing how excited the community is as well to have those new improvements would be like my why of why I do what I do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of pitch the industry, especially your side of the industry a little bit. So imagine you're sitting in front of a group of either high school or college kids that really don't kind of know what they want to do with their life, that have never even heard of Parks and Rec being a career path. What kind of advice or testimony would you give them as to why they may want to consider this as a career path?
Yeah. So growing up, I had no idea what Parks and Rec was. Mm-hmm. I just thought that every sports entity was through Little League or AAU basketball or anything like that. So I didn't realize that there was a whole industry that did the part, like this organizing the sports and the parks and that kind of stuff too. So no matter what, if you are big into sports, there's an avenue in Parks and Rec for you. Mm. Like even as the bigger industries as well, like if you're a math person, you could go into finance and accounting or Parks and Rec too. As the departments get bigger, there's more avenues as well to get into those kind of aspects where it might be that you don't think it's part of Parks and Rec, but it is. On the smaller departments, you got to be a jack of all trades. Yeah. But it's literally trying to give back to your community. And if you're willing to give back to your community, I think it's very fulfilling and rewarding, and you get to meet a lot of people. Now that I work for the city of Tucson, but I live in Marana, and my kids participate in the leagues, and I see people that I saw and created those relationships back when I was operating those sports leagues, say hi to them and all that. So you get that community connection as well, even though you don't have, I'm not working there anymore, but I still see people, still get to talk to them and that kind of stuff. So for me, it's the community aspect and the communication for it too. So.
Oh, love that. Okay, so one of the traditions we have, kind of wrapping up the show here, our previous guest leaves a question for the next guest, and so this question comes from episode number 473, Samuel White in Norwood, Massachusetts. His question for you, Matt, is if you could build a new facility in your community, what would it be and why? And he had no idea of your background in building. It seems to always work out. So what kind of facility would you like to build in your community?
A sports complex.
Oh, yes.
Just because in our community, we have fields that we don't have enough fields. Marana is one of the fastest growing cities or municipalities in Arizona. And so I talked with somebody because my kids are on spring break right now. So I ran into another father that his kid was playing a baseball camp, and they have 54 baseball teams in their league, and they have 5 fields to operate off of, and that's practices, games, all of it. So
wow.
So it's trying to build more fields for that aspect as well would be great. So it's a little bit trying to find the community need and that aspect as well. So I would say a sports complex, not just for baseball, softball, it would be for multi-purpose fields as well.
Oh, nice. Now, why is that important to have kind of the multi-purpose versus just like this is only a baseball field?
It's more users, more people can benefit from it. You don't want to not hamstring yourself in what sports, because down the road there could be a sport that isn't on the radar right now. Look at pickleball. Pickleball blew up, and now they're converting a lot of tennis courts into pickleball courts. I know out here for the city of Tucson, they're talking about cricket. Cricket is becoming big, and there's an advocate in the city of Tucson. I would never have guessed this, but apparently there's 72 cricket teams in the whole state of Arizona.
Wow.
I would not have guessed that at all.
Yeah.
So having those kind of, the multi-purpose allows you to have any sport available to you.
Right. Yep. Okay. So what question would you like to leave my next guest?
That's a good question. Why do you feel that professional certifications, how does that benefit you in your position?
Oh, that's a good question, especially in this industry, because everybody's getting all the certifications they can, it seems. So why do you feel that professional certifications benefit your industry?
Yeah. Or benefit your career. Or how does it benefit your career?
And what would be your answer to that question?
My answer would be that it gives you every aspect, because I have my CPRP. I've had it for 13 years now. I got my AFO, Aquatic Facility Operator. I have my CPSI, Certified Playground and Safety Inspector. So it's just, those certifications allow you to continue the education, to stay up on the trends, learn about the maintenance aspect, because I never would have thought that I would have been a CPSI certified. But when I got into the project management side, we're putting in playgrounds everywhere. So you got to know what the standards are, what you're looking for when they're installing, all that kind of stuff too. So to have the certifications allows you to continue your education that way, but it also every certification's a little bit different because the CPRP is more general. It covers budgeting, it covers aquatic sports, all of it, where the aquatic facility operator, you're focusing just on splash pads and running an aquatic facility, pool, aquatic center, that kind of stuff. And then you got your certified playground inspector. Well, you're focusing on the project side, building the playgrounds, what to look for, impingements, all that kind of stuff, making sure that a kid can't fit their head through and get their head stuck and all that kind of stuff too. So it's good to have the certifications to get that extra knowledge that is focused on those certain areas in the Parks and Rec industry.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing with us all that extensive knowledge you have on the project management, facilities maintenance side. I think this is the part of Parks and Rec that we speak the least amount, but yet, I mean, there's so much mastery that goes into being able to do everything that you do to keep your Parks and Rec system running.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate all your service for your community, and great to have you on the show. And we possibly need to get you on the Friday aquatics show, and we talk about the maintenance side and that on Wesley's show. That'd be fantastic. All right. Well, have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too.
Yep. Appreciate you, Matt. Bye. All right. So another great show. I love how we finally get to talk more about what it takes to maintain these parks and build them and reconstruct them. And I wish we would have got a chance to talk more about that bond and stuff and his participation in that. But just really as a part of Parks and Recreation that almost goes unnoticed. You only notice when they do something wrong, but you don't realize all the countless thousands of things that went right for you to just have a great special event or a great, sports program or to run a good farmer's market. And so behind the scenes, there is just like an army of Parks and Rec professionals that are keeping the place looking beautiful and making sure all the stuff is set up for any special event that y'all might have. And then not to mention there's a whole construction side of Parks and Recreation that, can deploy hundreds of millions of dollars over decades to try to refurbish and build, these park systems of America. And so I'd love to create more and more content around this part of Parks and Recreation. We often talk and of course our show is just as guilty. We talk a lot to the directors and the leadership side, but underneath them, just know that there's half the population in Parks and Rec is on maintenance and building and all that kind of stuff. So thank you, Matt, for coming on the show and sharing that with us. Okay. So that's all we have for today. Actually, no, we have the Youth Sports Mastery Show starting here in just a few minutes with my co-host or host, Aaron Locks. It's at 12:30 it's at 1:30. I forget I'm Central Time. So 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, Youth Sports Mastery with host Aaron Locks. He's one of the greatest youth sports minds of America, and he actually hosts our weekly show all about youth sports. So go get you some coffee or water or take a little lunch break and then come back and watch Aaron's show. Really appreciate all the love and support that we got from California. Chris, great job on that promo. I can't wait to show that to the California people. That was such a great event. Really looking forward to attending that every year. And for those of you who don't know, California it's one of 3 states that I'm aware of that is trying to produce or is actively producing their own content. And we were able to collaborate with them in California and to create some really great content. And theirs is called Push to Play. So Push to Play is a podcast that is run by the California Parks and Rec Society. And so love helping get the word out about that. And I know Illinois has one, and I think Missouri has the other third one. So encouraging all the states to start their own podcast. Please create content about this industry so we can raise awareness about what goes on in the park systems of America and highlight a lot of these careers and just showcase to the world, why Parks and Rec is such a great career path and all the value they bring to your community and how it is absolutely essential for a thriving community. So really hats off to Stephanie and her whole team over there in California. What a great job y'all did. So that's all I have for y'all today. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for the Youth Sports Mastery Show starting here in a few minutes. And we'll see y'all here again next week. Love you guys. Thanks. Bye.
This year, we didn't just attend an event. we became part of something bigger. IPRA 2026 brought together leaders, innovators, and community builders, all united by one mission: to strengthen parks, recreation, and the people they serve. For DPRS Media Network, it was an honor to join IPRA 2026 and take part in meaningful, real-time conversations, capturing stories and amplifying voices that matter. To IPRA, thank you for creating a space where collaboration thrives and the future of parks and recreation is shaped together. We extend our deepest gratitude to Amelia and all our partners who made these live interviews possible. IPRA 2026 wasn't just an event, it was a reminder that when communities connect and stories are shared, impact follows. From all of us at DPRS Media Network, thank you, IPRA. Thank you, partners and sponsors. We're honored to stand with you and excited for what's next. Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.